Okay, and we've let that play on, I think, long enough. My name is Alan Moore, and I am your co-host for this evening for Capital Sports 3.0. Of course, the greatest show in the world kicked off today. It wasn't as, shall we say, spectacular as it was 4 years ago in Moscow, mainly because the home team kind of froze on the day and didn't perform, I believe, as well as they could have. And of course, letting myself and Andrew Flint down because we had backed them to at least win. Well, Qatar, all we've been hearing in the last few weeks has been pretty negative. We're going to discuss that a little bit later on, especially with one of our specialists, Nima Rusari, who's going to come on a little bit later on. We're going to preview a full deep dive and sort of a head-to-head preview of the England-Iran game. Of course, that is taking place tomorrow morning in UK time and afternoon in, everywhere else in Europe. Well, I had a chat this week with the Nepalese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The reason was because there were two students who had issues in Russia, and they had asked me through the embassy, because I know the embassy quite well here, they'd asked me to kind of help them out. We got to speaking about Qatar because, of course, a lot of Nepalese workers went to Qatar, and many of them returned home, but in boxes, or were actually buried in the Gulf sands. They broke down the deaths and the reasons for the deaths very, very clearly, and something that has not been, let's just say, made openly, even obviously not been left open to the greater media and, of course, sports world as well, and of course us as media and journalists, and most importantly, supporters of sport. We do love sport and we support it. As he said, that 1/4. It was the Undersecretary for Foreign Affairs for Nepal. He said 1/4 of the men who perished in Qatar died in building accidents. That shocked me completely. That sickened me altogether, and I had to ask to repeat the rest of the numbers. He said half then died of either illness, and especially illness related to alcohol. Alcoholism is rife among the migrant workers and drug abuse, and he said that half of them had passed away because of this. There is a nuance to add that he didn't add, and that is that a lot of these people will take huge amounts of caffeine. They will take different drugs like amphetamines to keep themselves working longer and harder without falling asleep on the job. So this is something that I think should be examined as well, because this is rife in Thailand. The previous, former Prime Minister Shinawatra, he actually wiped people out because they were taking a drug called yaba, which is a methamphetamine substitute, which actually helps them work longer, harder, faster. It just gets people off their heads. So half of them died because of drug or alcohol abuse. And he said the other 1/4, he said, passed away, he said, because of what he had accused of fighting or carousing. But again, I don't believe that to be true. But still, as it is, the amount of deaths have been acknowledged in the media, they have been brought forward in the media, and hopefully this will actually step forward and put a greater spotlight on workers' rights in this region. Because as I said before, when I went to work in Saudi Arabia, I landed, the next day my passport was taken away and wasn't given back to me until I wanted to leave the country. I had to get an exit visa. On that note, I bring in my three brilliant and beautiful co-hosts for this evening. Keelan McGibney, all the way in the kingdom of Kerry, Isolt in the beautiful, my home of Dublin, and Andrew Flint out in the snowy wastes of Western Siberia. Isolt, I'm going to start with you first. I almost didn't want to mention that Ecuador beat Qatar 2-0 today to open the World Cup. It was a bit of an owl, this is like a joke, a damp squib, but it was a damp squid. It was an awful opener of a World Cup.
There was I suppose, to start off with the quality of the game, perhaps Ecuador were by far and away the better team. They obviously, not only did they win the game, but they had a goal disallowed by VAR. And of course, I didn't realize fully that VAR is now totally an independent entity when it comes to Qatar, and there was no need for the referee to look at anything. But VAR made the decision that a goal was disallowed. The referee then subsequently, the first goal, which managed to stay on the scoreboard for Ecuador, was scored and from a penalty where you almost felt like the referee took a life or death decision with the penalty. But nevertheless, that's where we got to. And I think the interesting thing, which was picked up on hugely online during the course of the second half, was in the first half we had a large group of Qatari supporters. I'm loath to say they were Qatari residents or nationals because I just couldn't really buy that, who were singing and cheering in unison in a form that I have never seen before. It was short of videos from the 1930s and 40s in a European country in the centre of Europe, where I suppose synchronized movements were very rife. And then following that, in the second half, we noticed that half the crowd were gone. So I think the official attendance was just over 67,000, and I would struggle to see if half of them had not left by the second half. But as openers go, it really wasn't much to write home about. And I think there are probably more fans have travelled from Ireland for their friendly against Malta tonight than travelled from the various countries involved to go to Qatar. And I think it was just, it was a difficult watch. I think the actual crowd made it more difficult because it felt so disingenuous or fake that it was a bit like, oh, these guys here singing in unison, covered in tattoos, which are illegal to get in Qatar, are Qatari fans, are they?
As it is, of course, Eastwood is talking about the friendly match between Ireland and Malta today. It is currently 0-0 in the 10th minute of that match. 3-1 for Ireland. Ireland leading on possession, but they had to do it after losing to Norway 2-1 earlier in the week. Andrew, coming to you on this. As he's already said, I mean, there's some strange things around the situation, but at the same time, I mean, Ecuador played an awful lot better than we expected. They actually did a pretty decent job.
No, they were excellent. They were so composed and calm. Enner Valencia up front honestly could have scored about 4, maybe even 5 goals. His header for the second goal was it was an absolutely phenomenal amount of power he generated out of it. They didn't look troubled at any stage. And I'll be honest, I'm trying to avoid it, but I probably can't. I did say I thought Qatar would be really enterprising and attacking and energetic, because this is not just a home World Cup. It's not just a debut at the tournament. This is the build-up of arguably 2 decades building up to this entire point. And I think actually that's the exact reason why they were so poor. They were so nervous. They lost possession endlessly. They didn't get the ball to their best players up front. And their coach, Felix Sanchez, who has been working in Qatar since, I think it's 2006, at various academy levels up to senior level, you'd have thought he would know the players inside out and know how to adapt and adjust. But it just they looked utterly clueless. Ecuador looked like they belong. And if they play like that, they will certainly get through to the knockouts and could do some damage in the next stage. But Qatar, the pressure is massively on them now, because one of their last 2 remaining games against the Netherlands, you'd have to say, well, if they play like that against Ecuador, then against Netherlands it'll be even more difficult. So I don't want to be fatalistic for them, but I'd say that arguably is almost a World Cup over, because they needed to get something out of that game.
Yeah, it is a kind of a case of where the whole it's continued that no side from Asia has won their opener in a World Cup. So it's kind of, I wouldn't lose faith just yet, because of course we saw that South Korea did do a number of teams, especially Italy later on. But it was a difficult watch, as you said, and it didn't perform. Cian, overall, I mean, a lot of people were kind of looking at it, were digging into it, were criticizing it. But looking at the reaction of some of the Qatari fans that stayed on, especially to the end of the match, they were into it.
Yeah, they were, and they had a chance 4 minutes from time that Montari, the replacement striker, had, and had that gone in, it might have been an interesting 4 or 5 minutes towards the end of the game. It was probably one of the strangest matches I think I've watched, because I have to be honest, that Qatari team looked like a Sunday League side. I think some of even Ireland's professional clubs would have done a better job today in that first game. I know Andrew has said they've probably nearly 20 years of pressure, and it probably the pressure just told on them today, and probably just such a bitterly disappointing way to end the game. But from an Ecuador perspective, they were very, very good. And as Andrew has already said, and Isolde has already said, they're going to cause problems for the rest of this group, and they're going to be thereabouts. And I would already say they have a fair chance of getting to the last 16, even off the back of just today's performance.
Good point. Isolt, sorry.
I think it's actually very interesting. I presume the guys, and this is a question I'm going to ask across the board. The actual opening game was the first part of this tournament I watched, and I can tell you this is the first World Cup I can remember where I didn't watch the opening ceremony. I love an opening ceremony. I love the World Cup. I love the Olympics. I love the Winter Olympics. If you've got fireworks, I love the Special Olympics. I love the Paralympics. Fireworks, I am there. I am your person. And I actually today, I actively at about 3:45, I went, the match is on, to remind myself. And it felt like you'd opened a door to a tournament in such a strange feeling without having that concept of we've gone through the pageantry. It just felt like you were there. And I really hope, for the sake of not the Qatar competition as a whole, but for the sake of the players who are there, that we can actually view their games in a different light, because I don't think today made for good viewing. I think more of the discussion, even on commentary in Ireland, was about Qatar as opposed to the match, and maybe that's because the standard of the match left little to be desired.
What was your question?
My question is, how many of you was today the first thing you watched, or did you watch the opening ceremony, which was not shown on BBC?
I'll say, Andrew, I'll just come in and say, I never watch it. I don't even watch the closing ceremonies unless I'm there working it. Unless I'm working it at the Universiade 3 years ago, myself and Annie Mack were there. I didn't bother me backside because, and even though Vladimir Putin was down there, and I could have had a chance to shake his hand or him shake my hand, even at that rate, I didn't bother. I just was like, I'm too busy preparing. It's not interesting for me. It's not interesting for me. I'm not a girl. I'm not a girl. I'm joking.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
The opening ceremonies. Let's be brutally honest. They are in themselves. They're basically rubbish. But there's spectacle that you have. There's it's all part of the procedure. It's like back in the day. This is before my time. But when people talk nostalgically about FA Cup final day, and we talk about the whole program of TV programming of having wrestling matches in the morning. I mean, in itself, that is utter rubbish. But it's part of it. It's the rubbish. No. Honestly, I have to explain it. I don't mean rubbish as in you should never watch it, but it's so bad that it's good rubbish. I mean, look, nobody cares. Nobody over the age of 12 cares who BTS are. And my daughters were watching it. They were laughing at all the mascots when they brought out all the mascots.
Who are BTS?
Well, I think there was some tweet. Either they performed or they were invited to come.
K-pop, Korean pop. Korean pop.
Yeah, apparently so. And my daughter said, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you all about them." And I was like, "Well, okay." My daughters are interested in it, and I want to sort of get them interested in the tournament if I can, so they follow it. They switched off the minute the football started, but that was the first opening ceremony I have actually watched all the way through.
Okay, I'll try this from a different angle. Did you feel the tournament just kind of opened on a we're here vibe? It wasn't the usual World Cup where the opening game, even if you think the host side are going to lose, you're tuning in with that bit of, it's the World Cup. It's the biggest football show on earth. It didn't have any of that.
I think is what the real truth is. The actual opening ceremony itself was very well staged and was spectacular. I don't think that was the problem. The ceremony itself wasn't the problem. It was everybody. I honestly see it as a concerted effort around the world to try and dumb down the actual football itself. And I'm not saying necessarily it's all that wrong, because we all know the moral reasons why people are attacking the World Cup. They want people to focus away from the football. The opposite of how FIFA are trying to get us to do it. We should be focusing on the football. I'm kind of caught halfway in the middle, I think, because the players themselves deserve their stage. I mean, some would say they don't because they should be boycotting the whole tournament. I disagree with that. But everybody I spoke to before the opening ceremony started were saying, I'm not really that bothered. I used to rush home to get the first game of the tournament. That's before the opening ceremony started. So it's not the opening ceremony's fault. It's the whole atmosphere around it. That's how I view it. Because the ceremony itself was very well produced, very spectacular, and lights firing everywhere.
Keane wants to come in there because we've been sort of discussing from our 3 points of view. So Keane, what's your view on it?
I'm half afraid to say I watched the whole lot of it, and Morgan Freeman was probably the best part of it.
I missed Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he was part of it.
That's even better. He's all saying it was great. You didn't see the best part.
No, I said I didn't watch it. I know.
Morgan Freeman, David Beckham, Gary Neville. Who else sold their souls? BTS, the K-pop band.
Well,
Who else sold their
John,
souls?
John Terry as well, in the same studio as Gary Neville.
Look, John Terry never had a soul to sell. Let's continue on.
That's very true.
Okay, on that, I will say that, like, in open ceremonies, no, I honestly, any of the ones that I had to deal with, I had to be there as either an organizer, as in I was competing. So I didn't have time to actually enjoy it. When it came to, for example, last World Cup, and I'm there in Luzhniki, we had text that we had to read out. And someone they didn't even Google Translate it. They literally just handed it to us and said, read this. And my co-commentator, who was still extremely hungover from the night before from being at a party with English fans, he was making me drunk, and he just sat there and said, Alan, can you handle this? So I had to go through it all. And I had to see, what you call her, I was going to say Robbie Williams, like, give the finger to, like, I don't know, the world. And I'm like, oh man. And I have to commentate on that. And people say, you have to say that he raised the finger. It was, so I have no time. But look, for the game, I was ready for it. I wanted to see it. I want to see what's going on. I'll be watching the games as we go through. But to be honest with you, I've turned off football to a degree only because I don't know. I kind of
Would football Jesus have put you off? The man of the people? Did he ruin it for you?
Infantino.
The man who is, yeah.
No, I mean, Infantino's Infantino. He was trying to say, I understood what he's trying to say, but he was like your man, what you call him, the head of the European Union, saying that Europe is a garden, and outside of Europe, it's a jungle. I understand what he meant to say. I understand what he said. It wasn't racist, but it sounded.
No. I don't think it was racist, but I don't think I'll take my opinions on inclusivity from a white Swiss man in the future, who also discriminated against Irish people. Apparently, freckles and red hair are an issue.
And what's the problem?
I know, I thought it was discriminatory. He made it sound like it was an issue.
None of us here have red hair. We're okay. If Andrew Weiser was here, he'd be here next week. Then we could discriminate.
Because it's typically Irish traits. It's appalling that he associated them with being some sort of like need for inclusivity, that he was on the outside because of his red hair. He now has no hair. So, things haven't worked out in the long run for him.
But it is a case that, like, with red hair people, I have two at home, like my brother and my sister, they're both
I've got
gingers.
one. Not sure if he's,
And they're gingers. And I mean, you have to kind of question, why should they be cursed like that? And I mean, as the saying goes, every freckle that a ginger has, it means a soul that they've stolen. I mean, that's fact. It's provable science.
So let's go back to the football, because Qatar isn't getting enough to
Okay, right. We're going to run through the games. We've got the games are starting in earnest tomorrow. Of course, we know the first game opened today. So tomorrow, Monday, we have 3 games up for decision. We've got England, Iran, Senegal, Netherlands, and USA, Wales. Andrew, have you got that one for me, or is it Keane? Who was it, Andrew?
So yeah, no, sorry, I missed that.
Who is covering Monday's set of games for?
That's Andrew.
That's Andrew.
I'm Tuesday.
I've got Tuesday and Friday, I think, haven't I?
I have Tuesday and Thursday.
Oh, it's
Hang on a minute. I'm not having my name slanted live on it. I'm
I'll
going to
take
check.
Monday. Go for it.
Andrew, if you get Tuesday and Friday, you sort Thursday and Saturday. I'll grab Saturday. No, nobody's got Monday. Right, I'll take Monday then.
We'll
No.
Monday.
No, do you know what? We won't because England and Iran are there. So we're going to have an Iranian and an English person on a bit later on the show.
Because Andrew isn't English.
Well, we can't be biased. So he has to
Siberian. I've got too much hair to be English.
Very quickly, I'm not going to say anything about England and Iran. I'm going to leave that.
Okay, the last 2 games then.
Exactly. The Clash of the Evil Empires tomorrow at 2 p.m. CET. Senegal, Netherlands, that's the one in this group, that the Group A, the one that Qatar and Ecuador are in. Let's see how they go on. Senegal, of course, they've lost Sadio Mane. Netherlands, they are looking quite decent. This is a chance. People have tipped them. Senegal, I don't know. I would love to see just a couple of students of mine who are really hoping that Senegal to win. I'm going to go for a Netherlands win. That's it. USA and Wales, even though I'd love to say USA are going to do well, Andrew Visa will kill me for saying they're not going to do well, but I think Wales are going to do something special, and I think Wales are going to win tomorrow. So that is a win for the Netherlands and win for Senegal. On to Tuesday, Andrew Flint. Tuesday, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Denmark, Tunisia, Mexico, Poland, France and Australia.
Well, the first game is a real nail biter. I mean, it just could go either way. Absolutely no idea what could happen here. I can't keep a straight face. This should be probably the highest scoring game of the group stage. We saw Saudi Arabia ship plenty of goals. They conceded 5 against Russia in the last World Cup.
Correct? You said
ship.
Ship. Okay, good. I thought I said no.
I would never use bad language. My mother is watching. She just sent me a message saying, "Yes, you are," which in my separate messages. So I have to be polite. Now, look, there's everybody. A lot of people are backing Messi to make a sort of career-defining performance in what I'm not sure it will necessarily be his last World Cup, but it could be. And this is the easiest, most comfortable game in. They've got so much talent. They really should be going absolutely berserk and racking up loads of goal difference just in case. Easy win for them. I mean, there's no point saying anything else. How many goals is another matter. It depends how determined they are. So it could be anything up to 7-8-0 for all I know, but could be just little as 2 or 3. They'll win comfortably. That's straightforward.
And Argentina win.
Argentina win sets them up fairly comfortably. Easy as it comes to start. Denmark, Tunisia. Up next is, again, it's one that Denmark, who got to the semi-finals for Euros last summer, and they have Christian Eriksen. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. You just have to speed up a little bit.
Denmark, Tunisia really have got to. It's just got to be a Denmark win. I'm not impressed with Tunisia. They were rubbish in the AFCON as well. Mexico, Poland. I mean, this is actually a really important game in Group C because I think those two, they're fighting for second place. And personally, I think Mexico just are going to edge it simply. They needed that bit more. France, Australia. Have to say France to win that one fairly comfortably. Even without Benzema, without Pogba, without Kante, they still have far more quality.
Okay, well, that is a good one. And again, those games are kicking off tomorrow at 11 a.m. CET. Is that sorry? Is it CET 11 a.m.? Is that correct? It is. Or 11 a.m. Is that 11 a.m. UK time? What time is it kicking off with you tomorrow, Keane?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock tomorrow. There we go. 11 o'clock. I'm right on CET. Okay. Then we go from Tuesday, and of course the next day then is Wednesday. Wednesday, again, we have 4 matches. We have Croatia and Morocco, Germany, Japan, Spain, Costa Rica, and Belgium, and Canada with a small c for a reason. Who is that? I think that's Cecil.
It is now because I thought I was Tuesday. So let's bang through these at speed. Morocco and Croatia, I think that will be a fairly straightforward answer. It's going to be a Croatian win. In Germany and Japan, I think, again, that's going to be a high-scoring game, and I don't see the Japanese coming out on top there. Spain, Costa Rica, again, unfortunately, I think the Spanish team are going to prove not just a small bit too strong for them, but decisively so. And I think, unfortunately, Wednesday is going to wrap up with a further quite predictable game. But after hearing the guys last week on the preview show, big up Canada, I am going to say that the Canadian team will give a spirited performance against Belgium, but I think I still see the Belgians as being too strong for them. So unfortunately on Wednesday, I don't see any shocks there, but I also don't see any draws bar potentially Belgium and Canada. I think everything is going to be high scoring, which is what you want, even if the results are slightly predictable.
Okay, that is fair enough. I think it's quite I think you've been very, very fair on that as well. So we move on then to Thursday. So who has Thursday? That is Switzerland, Cameroon, Uruguay, should we start kick our editor, South Korea, Portugal, Ghana, and Brazil, Serbia. So who has that one?
That's Hobson's choice because I was Wednesday and Friday.
So who has Thursday?
I thought I was Tuesday, and I'll take Thursday. All right,
go ahead, Isolt. Go ahead.
Great. Okay, because I'm just loving this game. And any second now, the game's going to whiz along the bottom of the screen, Alan. Work with me here. Work with me.
Here we go. Where you go?
Great. So let's start with Switzerland and Cameroon. Oh, that's actually an interesting game. That could be an enjoyable one. I am going to go Switzerland, Cameroon. I will edge Switzerland purely because of Irish history against them. I think the Swiss will come out on top. Cameroon, though, that could be a draw. I might go with the draw. Uruguay and South Korea. I'm going to go with Uruguay. I think they'll just be too strong. Portugal, Ghana. Again, I think Portugal will be much too strong, and it is, after all, the Cristiano show. And Brazil versus Serbia could be an absolute cracker of a game. While I think Brazil will win, the Serbians are just a tough group of players, and they're up against a team who have a man who likes to fall over like he's been shot every time the ball goes anywhere near him or an opposing player. So if nothing else, you will get a good performance there. I actually think that's probably the game of the day to watch, because while I think Brazil will be much too strong in terms of football ability and the quality of their strikers, even the quality of their defence, and obviously their keeper, as much as I am loath to say it, I just think that could be a really good match to watch in terms of physicality versus footballing skill, and probably the game of the day. That will be the one I will be tuning into.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the final games of most days are going to be good. Like France and Australia will be good on Tuesday. The USA Wales game, I think it's going to be a cracker. I think USA are going to put up them. So
the other thing I would say, just when you're saying it as well, like I don't mean to be disrespectful to teams where I'm saying, I see it to be an easy win. That doesn't mean they won't be the games I'll tune into, because you'll get to see some goals and hopefully you always get to see an upset every World Cup. So
yeah, that is true. Okay, we have then Friday. So Friday, Wales, Iran, Qatar, Senegal, Netherlands, spelled incorrectly, Ecuador, and England, USA. So the showdown of the true evil empires, England, USA. Who has that then? Friday.
I think that's me.
Go ahead, Keane. The arch royalist.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know how to follow
You're from
that.
the kingdom. You're from the kingdom. Come on. We're
trying to work with you. Wales to beat Iran. Qatar to continue their wonderful form from this afternoon, to be beaten 3-0 by Senegal.
Oh.
Ecuador to continue their good form from this afternoon and beat the Netherlands, and England to beat the United States.
Okay, that's very well done. That's very well done. What, Issa, why are you hiding your face? There's something wrong.
I just thought Keane would go out on a limb there and be like, come on, Team USA. Just on the off chance. You never know. Have faith, guys. Have faith.
Okay, Saturday. Who has Saturday? Tunisia, Australia. That's going to be a bit of a grind. Poland, Saudi Arabia, France, Denmark. I would disqualify both those teams from the World Cup right away. And Argentina, Mexico, a big Hispanic showdown, and that could be good. So who has Saturday?
I'm not even going to say anything about. I was going to have Friday. It's all over the place, so I'll take Saturday.
So
I think.
How about we all take a game?
There we go. All right. Except France, Denmark, because those two teams should not be allowed to play in world football ever again after the disgraceful showing 4 years ago in Moscow that I had to try and commentate on. I fell asleep during the match, commentating on a match. I was stone cold sober and I fell asleep because it was fixed. Anyway, go on. Andrew, you have the early morning game, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah, that's. I'm not looking forward to that game either, to be honest. But no, Tunisia, Australia, then the first game of the day. I don't think it's going to be a particular thriller, but it is. I'm always riding on this game for both of them. I think it's going to end up a draw because they'll be so tense about it. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be a dull 0-0.
Okay. Next up, the afternoon game, of course, is Poland and Saudi Arabia. Issa, you do that because they're both, very well up on women's rights, both Poland and Saudi Arabia.
I don't know which I want to win less. Unfortunately, in this instance, I think Poland will be too strong for Saudi Arabia, and in terms of their actual footballing skill, in terms of if we're to give them both weapons and see who does best, who knows. But I am going to go with Poland in that for a win. I think that'll probably be a low-scoring and slightly painful match to watch.
Okay. I'll take the France-Denmark one. I hope that something bad happens to both teams on the way to the stadium. It's going to be a draw. Sorry, it's going to be a draw. I shouldn't wish evil on other people or ill on other people, but there you go. It'll be a draw. Keane, you've got the El Derby between Argentina and Mexico. That is going to be a cracker.
That would be a fantastic game. I just think with all the talk of Lionel Messi and this supposedly being his final World Cup, I do think that they'll continue the good form. They'll probably beat Mexico in that game, Alan.
All right, and remember that Argentina also they've lost 2 players to injury, and 7 of their team, including Lionel Messi, didn't train with the team just before just 2 days ago. Finally, on Sunday we have also some interesting ones: Japan, Costa Rica, Belgium, Morocco, Croatia, Canada, and Spain and Germany. I'll hide that. I'll move that because that is a terrible for Spain. Who has Sunday? Okay, look, we'll just go around the house.
You have Sunday.
I have Sunday.
There's no point asking who's got a day. We lost that after day 2 of this region.
The only thing we know is that Alan had Sunday. He most definitely said he had Sunday.
Japan, Costa Rica. I'm seeing the Japanese win that. I think they'll just nip it. I think they just might have a little bit too much for them. Belgium, Morocco. The fact that a lot of the Moroccans were born in Belgium and some of them play in Belgium, I think that it'll give them a bit of a chance, but they're not good enough, so Belgium are going to beat them. Croatia, Canada, Croatia win, even though some of the Canadians are Croatian-born, Croatian nationals. Croatia is still going to win. And the final game, Spain and Germany. In the 1930s, they were friends, but they like to play football against each other, but it's a different case now. I do think that Germany are going to just have a little bit too much for Spain on the day. I will mention as well that with a lot of this World Cup, we saw it before when Switzerland were playing Serbia, the reaction of Kosovan players who are playing for Serbia, people of Kosovan heritage. This is going to play as well, because in Canada, I know that there are people who are already angry because Croatians are coming out all big, like Hrvatska. In Canada, some Canadians are saying, wait, hold on, behave yourselves. I saw it many years ago when Croatia beat Germany in the 98 World Cup. And suddenly when Croatia beat Germany, you would not believe the amount of Croatians who were out on the streets waving flags, cars going on people's homes. It was phenomenal. It really woke me up. Okay, and on that note, I'll say we'll go out for a moment to a very, very short break. We will come back then with a bit of NHL hockey. We're going to ask some questions of our special guests coming up. We all have questions for them on NHL hockey. So back after this with some more Capital Sports 3.0. Andrew Flint has disappeared, or else he has been kidnapped or taken away by aliens. We don't know what's happened to him. But in his place, I guess, we're delighted to welcome him onto the show for the first time making his debut, dropping the poke with us, Victor Hymeneko. Victor, you're very warm welcome. How are you doing this evening?
Hi guys, thank you for inviting. Very glad to be here.
You were he's wearing a Russian hockey shirt. Yeah, very good. Lots of Russian rugby shirt or hockey shirt, Andrew?
Andrew, you're on mute. You're doing an Alan on it.
It's the only hockey shirt I've ever worn. Rubin Tumen, former VHL champions.
Okay. Victor, tell us a little bit about your hockey pedigree.
I was a professional hockey player in Automobilist, Ekaterinburg. So I have played for 14 years, and now I play for FIA hockey team. It's a university team in Moscow.
Okay, Victor. We know we don't speak about the KHL right now because that's the Continental Hockey League, which of course is the big one. It was part of Eastern Europe, up into Finland, and of course across Russia and into China as well. We don't want to speak about that because it's undergoing an awful lot of difficulties at the moment with players, the quality players coming in and out. I wanted to speak with the NHL. I've seen that Boston are going great this year. They have won 16 out of 8 games, and they are top of the Atlantic Conference. How good are Boston? Tell us a little bit about the Boston Bruins, if you can.
Actually, Boston doing very great in this season. They tied a record of 11 winning streak games in the NHL. Previously, this record was set by Chicago in 63-64 season and by Florida in 21-22 season. So it's very great.
The Eastern Conference seems to be quite well. At least they've got some very strong teams in it. Because I'm looking across then at the Metropolitan Division, which has New Jersey Devils. They are 15-3, top ahead, 5 games ahead of Carolina Hurricanes. Can you tell us a bit? So, which of the Russian players, for example, are standing out at the moment in the NHL?
Yeah, there are a lot of strong players from Russia. Actually, everybody knows Alexander Ovechkin. So he is doing great, earn points, and want to beat the record, the great record of points in the NHL. So as for me, I track of defensemen. So Ivan Provorov is a great player. So
well, I know you are a defenseman yourself. That's your position. Yeah. A goal scoring defenseman. Of course, as you mentioned, Ovechkin, he is going for the record set by the great Wayne Gretzky. And I mean, that's I never thought that it would be beaten in my lifetime, or even equal or gotten close, but he's doing it. Isa, do you have a question before I go on to the next? We have a question for Victor.
I suppose I was going to ask Victor, what does he think is the biggest factor for the likes of Boston being at the top? What's their improvement coming from? Is it players being brought in, or is it bringing players up through their own team? What is it that they do best at the moment?
Okay, I understand. Actually, I don't have much time to track everything, but I think there are a lot of strong players actually in Boston, and they become more confident, more they how it's called earn more experience in the game. So it's great.
I know they've made some very good draft choices recently, but they've got a real mix of young and old as well, because you've got like Bergeron, who's there. I think he's late 30s, and there's some very, very young players like Frederick. Like they've an older team, so that's the one thing. Sorry, Issa, you want to follow up? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, is there a connection with Boston College at all? Or are they entirely separate from one another?
Is there a connection between college in Boston, or
with the team?
No, actually,
entirely separate.
Very separate.
Yeah.
Very, very separate. Keane, Andrew, if you have a question, jump in before I ask my next one.
Yeah, Victor, I wanted to ask you. I love watching Rubin Chimen, and we had a Canadian player a few years ago called Darcy Vero, who set a lot of the records for penalty minutes, and he was a folk hero over here because he was just an absolute brute. And I knew nothing about hockey when I watched him. Is there still a space for that type of enforcer in hockey who doesn't have much skill but is just pure physicality to start fights, to start aggro? Is there still a player like that today?
VHL actually, that jersey you wear is it's a pretty funny league. So I think a lot of strange stuff happens there. So
Vero, of course, he played. He played with Washington Capitals. He played across Europe and in many of the different leagues in Europe and in America, North America as well. So Darcy Vero, So I think that's a very, very good. Of course, he is the man from Saskatchewan, and he played with Vityaz Chekhov. Vityaz Chekhov. They had a reputation, didn't they, Victor? They were like a tough, violent hockey team here in Russia.
Vityaz Chekhov, actually, I have a funny story from KHL. Neftekhimik Nizhnekamsk had 2 goalkeepers injured. so they had to sign a junior coach to play against Vitas Chekhov. So, and they actually won this game, but it's a very strange story that might happen only in KHL, I think. So Vitas Chekhov, yeah, it's a very tough team to play, a lot of strong players. So yeah, a lot of tough guys, I think.
Tough guys. Ian, do you have any questions before I wrap up with Victor?
No, I'll let you work away there, Ellen. No.
Okay, Isolt?
No, I'm enjoying listening because I'm learning about different things that I wouldn't be normally watching. It's really
Same as that. Same as that.
Victor, for you as a defenseman, how many penalty minutes did you get at the most in a season?
Most of the season, I think I got something like 60 minutes. So
60 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was 10 minutes in the game for something. I don't remember actually. So
I can see a Happy Gilmore incident right now. Question on this before we let you go. Your favorite ice hockey movie?
I think it's tough question. So it's a Russian film, Legend Number 17. Yeah, it's about Harlamov. So it's my favorite film.
Yeah, again, that's a great one. It's about the great winger player who had his career effectively ended playing in the Super Series with was it against Canada, correct?
Yeah,
he got done in. Just a beautiful player, great skill, a real legend of a player, and unfortunately he ended kind of in very, very sad circumstances. Victor, thank you very much for being with us this evening. We'll be back to you very, very soon. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emil.
Okay, so Victor, of course, as I said, so we're looking to get a former pro athlete on with us. Okay, I do not count. So we're going to wait for a quick break, and we'll come back to begin setting up for our discussion on England and Iran. So back after this with some more Kappa Sports 3.0. Okay, a warm welcome back. Isolt has gone into the dark, and I'm delighted to say that we have on a friend of our show. He's been on a couple of times and has been always absolutely superb with us. Nima is it okay if I say Nima Rutsari, or should I say your full name?
No, Tavallo is. It's two surnames, so it's Nima Tavallo Rutsari. But yeah, I mean, whatever's easier for you to pronounce, mate. That's fine. I'm all right. I'm easy. I'm not going to be offended. I promise.
That's extremely understanding. As someone with an unusual name,
well, it's just I don't play that way. It's just the kind of guy I am. What can I say?
Yeah. Nima, I'm going to start to ask you right away. A couple of things. We're going to, you've been very, very upfront in terms of with social, political, and sporting views. So I want to start off and just give you a moment to speak about the situation surrounding the World Cup in Qatar. We've been discussing it, a few times even tonight as well. You might have seen it. Are we seeing the dying embers, or even the growing flames of imperialism or colonialism at play, or is it just a fact that maybe we should all try to understand each other just a little bit better?
I think it's it's exactly that. The old world, the so-called rules-based order is dying. The Anglo-Saxon Empire is at its dying moments, and there's a new world order. There's a new world order emerging, and it's a new world order that is based on multipolarity after 30 years of unipolarity, and we see that in football as well. It's the very notion. I mean, if you were to listen to any Western media outlet, mainstream Western media outlet, You'd think that corruption in FIFA was invented when Russia and Qatar got the World Cup. Before, no problems. After, no problems. That's just not the case. If you don't contextualize, as they don't do, then you'd watching them and listening to them. You'd think that, but that's just not how it is. We know that FIFA is an incredibly corrupt organization from pretty much from the day it was from its very inception to today. No one's denying that. No one's denying that Qatar got the World Cup through bribery. But, well, didn't the Germany in 2006? What about every other tournament as well then? Or did that just happen in Qatar? And as for who Qatar are and the Qatari government, I draw a very strong line between the government of a country and the people of that country and the culture of that country. And I think it's very dangerous to equate those two with one another. And what do I mean by that? I mean that Qatar, the Qatari government, the Qatari state, is an invention of the British Empire. Remember that empire on which the sun never set? That's when it was invented. And they have, because of its geographical strategic position, and because of its an importance in military operations nonetheless, together with the oil and everything else, they've sold weapons. They still sell weapons. I mean, you'd think, based on the reporting in the mainstream media in the West, that Qatar is not an ally. Qatar is an ally of the West militarily. Many people may not know this, but the entire U.S. military command, the military HQ during the illegal invasion of Iraq, which resulted in the death of 1 million people, all of that, the entire military command was stationed in Qatar. Same thing when they set Libya on fire and turned it into this failed banana republic. It was from Qatar they did these things. Now, I think as human beings, our brains should be able to process several pieces of information at once. No one is defending what Qatar being a dictatorship, or that its policies on women's rights, on gay rights for migrant workers. That's no one's debate. No one's even defending that remotely. What I'm simply saying is that, well, we know of the reports that migrant workers, regardless anywhere on this earth, have a very good working conditions. And I mean, just was it 2018 when I think it was the Daily Mail that reported that the British kits were made by people who made 21p an hour in a third world country. I mean, this is what I mean. Contextualize. But they don't want to do that, because if they do contextualize that, they will have to admit that they are actually military allies of that same government who they claim to hate so much. And that's not something they're willing to do. And so instead, they want to hammer home the point about, Muslim, and of course, them Qatari people being Muslim and brown, and the racial aspect of this is huge as well. So they hammer home those points. And I mean, the last week alone, the amount of stupid things I've seen, just lies. I mean, it's as if you need to lie and invent lies to criticize the Qatari state for. Remember that notion of Qatar bribing the players in Ecuador? Well, we just saw how well that went. Didn't go so well. Maybe the check didn't clear. I mean, come on. Can we stop? Can we please be serious here? Or which prompted actually the president of the Ecuadorian League to come out and say, an idiot says something stupid and we have to spend hours to talk about it. End quote.
Nima, this is, I think, what we go through all the time. I think we saw with Russia, for example, in 2018. We discussed it with Alexander Soto here on the show, and it's one of those things where a paper never refused ink, and the more outrageous, the more shocking it is, the better it's going to sell. And unfortunately, this is what's needed. People, if we all look at sport and we love our sport, you love Inter Milan. I'm just as you read, like you. I mean, Isa loves, love hate with Tipperary. Keane, God help him, loves Kerry, and Andrew, well, Man United. What can we say? It's kind of one of those things where when you see it happening, if you love sport, you kind of go, oh, I don't know, and it upsets you. And I think it's right. I did mention at the start about migrant workers that you know, Michael, I remember today, and Isolt and Keane, you remember this, when a socialist member of our government, parliament, I blanked his name with Joe, I just blanked his name. He was talking about Turkish migrant workers being housed very poorly in Ireland, living in shipping containers, and saying that, you know, this is wrong. And a member,
they were working for a mine. The company begins with G. I know the one you're on about. I can see it in my head.
And they were working here as well in Russia, and I know how they treated their workers here as well, and how they worked as well. And I'll explain it in just a moment. But Joe Higgins, thank you, Keane. Joe Higgins said that, you know, this is wrong, it's really bad. And a member of the government turned around and said, Joe, you take care of your kebabs, you're all right. And it was like, what? And the guy who said it, I would have great time for. He's a lovely fella. He's very intelligent, very kind, the most non-racist person you could ever say. But he thought it was funny. And so with the Turkish workers here in Russia, I remember when they were building the Moscow City skyscrapers, which we can see from our windows and that. So when they were building that, they were bringing in they were basically busing in workers to work 12-hour days. They were coming from the eastern part of Turkey, very, very poor. They were brought in. They literally just usually slept on the buses, or they slept in containers. Now, sleeping in a container in Russia, even if it's kept warm, it's still blooming cold. That was the labor that was needed to do it, and these magnificent Moscow City skyscrapers. And I do remember when it was either Gala or Fenerbahce won the Turkish league in, would have been 2008, would have been. They had a gigantic flag placed across one of the work sites, huge flag, and they were celebrating and joy. But you can see them that they had no rights. They had no rights. Sorry, Isolt.
Is it, I suppose, I get the point entirely. Migrant workers across the globe, wherever they are by the very nature of being migrant workers, generally in the worst position. Is it maybe, and I don't think it's solely to do with Qatar, is there a latent sense for us all that we're now more aware of it, that we're more conscious of the migrant workers here in this instance? We probably were quite conscious of them in South America. We were less conscious in other tournaments. But then in the back of our head, there may be that level of ability to go, they're migrant workers who are dying for the sake of us watching a football tournament. And perhaps on some level there is, for some people, that's now creeping in and going, because I know I find myself watching more and more sports that are coming from Saudi Arabia, that are coming from Yas Island, has a huge amount of UFC. I like combat sports, just Nima to explain, I watch a huge amount of combat sports. And I think what galls me perhaps with Qatar, and it's not the lack of separation of state and tournament, but it's the feeling that the state have an overall control on everything to do with the tournament, and we are basically feeding migrant workers who may be getting paid, etc., and that might be good, but we're basically doing it for our own entertainment in a very corrupt tournament.
Yeah. Absolutely, we are. But my issue is that it's, well, how is that news? I mean,
but perhaps the fact that we're highlighting it rather than just...
No, I get that, but the problem is that it's never highlighted. I mean, for Poland and Ukraine, when they held the Euros, at one building site, just one stadium, 8 people died. You'd have to dig online to find anything written and reported about that.
One of the things, Nima, that we did discuss though the last time was about the disinformation coming up to the Russian competition, that there were so many people. The big focus for Russia was hooliganism, and this time it's a different focus. There is always one story that the media will run with solely.
They did the same. Racism and hooliganism was the same for Ukraine and Poland in 2012, and it was well managed, well maintained, and it really was, the same as Russia managed their hooligan problem. Ukraine and Poland did the same.
I must say, I think the point though about the ally point is so important, and it's the same with Saudi Arabia. They're a military ally of the US, so
okay,
it's a very good point.
But just on that point, I mean, it's like, again, I don't have I've not said anything for the last 12 years when this entire machine has been going. I've been waiting for the context. I've been waiting for them to contextualize this. I've been waiting for them to bring up that actually maybe look, we all know who the Qatari state and government are. What about if we don't sell them weapons anymore? What about if we don't prop them up anymore? What about, I mean, if you really, really care about these things, it feels to me the entire debate is like this, where they've created a Frankenstein's monster. The monster is loose, and instead of being pissed off with Dr. Frankenstein, they're virtue signaling against the monster. The monster doesn't care, and it's just absolutely. I mean, it makes no sense. There is no logic and coherence in this situation, and of course, you know, just take the beer. This horrible outrage about the beer at the stadiums. Now, in France, in 2016, they did the same thing. They didn't sell beer at the stadium during games because, as it turns out, drunk people are difficult to manage and misbehave. I mean, who knew? Who knew?
Amazing.
I mean,
and that is solely down to it being a Muslim country.
Well,
that's
of course,
why that's such an easy one.
Exactly. This is what it's because they're Muslim, and if they're gonna, those dodgy dark Muslims, if they back out on this in the 11th hour, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna back out on as well? I mean, it's just, and then you have, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to do this, but then you go on Sky, Rupert Murdoch, Sky Sport, and I use this term seriously, internationally renowned village idiot, Kaveh Solhekol, standing there pretending like he's some sort of wartime correspondent, talking about how normal fans can have a pint of beer and doing his best EastEnders character impersonation whilst doing it to connect with the audience he's trying to entice. I mean, get out of here. It's like, who buys this bollocks? Excuse me.
I'm going to say so Ireland is obviously a country known for its drinking. We have recently had I know this may sound shocking. We have recently had national newspapers run stories, and Keane, obviously you'd have seen these, about fans complaining about people going out during games to get drinks. So in Ireland, where we're all about drinks, I'm one of those people who, when people go out, I scowl at them, because I don't want people drinking at games. I want people to sit in their seats and watch. So in fairness.
I heard that from a friend of mine, big rugby fan, big Leicester fan, and he loves rugby. He's from schools up, and he coaches his club under 12 team. He's a real club man.
I would ban alcohol at matches.
He said he can't understand why. Then all of a sudden he's sitting there 10 minutes into a half, so either first or second half. People are saying, "Can you move?" And they're there with their beers and they're slopping it over. And he says, and he's sitting there with his daughter and son. He said, "It drives me out." Now, I will say, when I see him in a couple of weeks, we're going to go for a drink. He is happy to have a beer, but and again, I love going to hockey ice hockey in Germany and sitting there with a beer there, but it's a different situation. But when I did see it with the World Cup, it was like kind of, they can't get beer. My mom, so Mary, Anna will be very happy to hear this. My mom said, they're complaining about not being able to drink. Surely that's a good thing. That was my mom's reaction, and that wasn't only her. A lot of people said that. Cian, sorry, you're agreeing or disagreeing?
I'm agreeing, because I sat in the Aviva during the New Zealand game a couple of years ago, and I had to sit sideways, quite literally. I was facing front for the anthems, and as you say, 5 or 10 minutes into the game, I happened to be at the end of the row, and I ended up nearly sitting sideways for the full 80 minutes, and it drove me absolutely demented. Yeah. Now I don't drink, so that's a big part of it too. I got ballistic.
Ludus, you should not be the one having to sit sideways. Here at Tumen games, they don't sell alcohol in the stadium here. And even then, that's not even about alcohol. This is just basic manners. And this actually comes on to a point I really do want to make about Qatar is manners. Like, people walking, I was picked the end of the road because there's extra leg room and I've got long legs, I need them. People walk past and there's plenty of space for them to just walk around. And they insist on going straight through you as if they have some divine right to walk this way because whatever they're buying is more important. I'm sorry, but no, it isn't. Firstly, if you go to a sports occasion, an event with other people, you are going with other people, so you pay respect to the basic fact that other people exist, not only you. They may have other priorities, like what they're bloody paying to watch in the first place, right? First thing. And on a second level, a much bigger level, this is not to say everybody who goes to Qatar must have exactly the same moral priorities as Qataris. But if you are choosing to visit that country, and I'm talking here specifically about those physically going, you are going as a visitor. You are going to their country. They are hosting you. So you respect at a basic level, some level of manners towards that country. If it is so impalatable to you, if it's so disgusting, don't go and protest. You have a right to protest, but don't go as a visitor and then start saying, God damn it, where's my beer? I mean, that's just one thing.
It's a sense of entitlement.
Entitlement.
It's entitlement. It's this a sense of entitlement that wherever the West, Western, this narrative of Western cultural hegemony, that we are by definition the moral superiors and cultural superiors and just general superior to anyone and everyone else, and anyone who does not conform to the way we want, whenever we want, however we want, we destroy them, we rip them apart. This is just it's so blatant.
Nima,
and again,
the garden to the jungle.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly. Remember that?
The garden to the
Remember
jungle.
that? The garden. Yeah, the garden and the jungle. Remember that? Yeah, I did. Well, I mean, that actually, I know a lot of people got upset at that, but I got to say, I was actually happy about that because at least he told what he thinks. He said what he thought for once.
Exactly.
He revealed himself.
Okay.
And in that, even in saying that, Nima, like when he said it, when he's trying to contextualize, he was trying to say, look, we do this and we're going to try and spread this. I understood him. He wasn't being bad, but that, as you said, that's the kind of the view. And we speak about, I say, with FIFA, as you start off with FIFA, and we'll go quick on to the England-Iran game in a moment. The thing about FIFA, Stanley Rouse had taken over, and for many, many years, it was extremely corrupt and run under this kind of like this patriarchy the whole way up. However, Stanley Rouse, for example, in 1945, made sure to get the Dynamo Moscow football team to go across the tour. Well, the plan was for the British Isles. They played Chelsea, Arsenal, Cardiff City, who were third division at the time, and Glasgow Rangers. The original Glasgow Rangers, not the one that has been restarted, Sevco. They toured there in a bid to raise funds for the orphans. I think it was the orphans of Leningrad, and they wanted to try and bond, because the British, the English looked at the Soviets as this friendly nation. They were our friends and ours and so on. It was money was in it, the whole lot, but then very, very quickly, while sport was great and the teams played well, Dynamo were very impressive. It was funny because the Dynamo team, when they came out to the pitch, they stretched. They were doing their stretching and their sprints. The English guys were, this is no joke, standing having a smoke. And it was like, what are these mad Russians doing? That's what. But for the man who was in charge of British football, or English football, and world football at the time, he wanted to reach out and to unite countries. That doesn't seem to be anywhere at the moment. It seems to be just
no. It's about imposing one's own values because of the being convinced of one's own of one's own fantasticness. I'm so amazing. You have to be like me. Why don't you want to be like me? I'm so awesome. It's like it's sickening. It's weird and it's strange and it's not going to work because the rest of the world. This isn't 1922. Look, the age of Lawrence of Arabia is over, long gone. Please welcome to the 21st century. It's 2022. It's not going to happen. It's over. It's finished. The global South will not be talked down to anymore.
And I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm going to start off and look ahead, moving slightly away from politics, because we are running out of time as well, to look at the game tomorrow morning and bring in Alex Kershaw. Alex, can you say your family name for me? Because I always mix it up. And you're on mute. You've done an Ian and an Andrew.
Karkoska.
Karkoska.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Nima, start off with you, and we're the three of us or four of us around the edge are going to just listen. Iran tomorrow. What are their chances against England? Then, Alex, you give your thoughts on England.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Even though Gareth Southgate decided to leave Chris Smalling, and Fikayo Tomori, the two Serie A players for Roma and Milan respectively, especially Smalling, who's been one of the best, if not the best, arguably the best central defender in the Serie A this season. When he decided to leave them both, I was very happy as a fan of Iran, because with all due respect to Conor Cody and Harry Maguire and the rest of them, I don't consider them to be as good as Chris Smalling and Fikayo Tomori. But if we look past that and you look at the midfield and the attack, the sheer firepower that England have, there's no doubt that they are qualitatively a better side and that they are qualitatively better than every single team in this group, and we all know that. For Iran, but what Iran are is a team under Carlos Queiroz, in previous stints when he's been there. It's a very organized team. It's a very hardworking team. It's a team that never gives up. They all fight for one another. And, so yes, they do have a chance. It's not very big. England are huge favorites. And I think for Iran, it's about surviving the first 20, 30 minutes to try to settle the game and then try to frustrate England. And the more you have a goalless situation, the more frustrated and the more annoyed and stressed England will get. And then, you proceed from that point on. But of course, England are huge, huge favourites. There's no doubt about that.
Queiroz, of course, he is an absolute phenomenal. A lot of Manchester United fans would know, of course, fans of the Spanish league, because he was with Madrid for a season, I think it was, as well. He's done, he's worked around the world. This is, as you said, second stint with Iran. He was with Iran for quite a few years. Question on that: do you think that he is the man, maybe to this is the first meeting, I believe, between England and Iran? Nima, do you think that he is the man to actually make it happen? Because he is one of the better world coaches, and a great man manager and a great coach as well.
Well, this particular Iran side, this particular Iran team group of players, they really are his boys. They are really his lads. I mean, when his first stint started about over a decade ago, he was looking everywhere for players, both in Iran and outside of Iran, with Iranian heritage, to build a team around, to build a basis of a team around. And along the way, he found all these players that are now at the peak of their careers. And of course, through the years, I mean, he was, to say that he was a father figure to them would be no overstating the facts. I mean, during the sanctions and World Cups, he paid out of pocket for kits, for gear to help these guys. They listen to him, and he knows that they are loyal to him. I mean, you can pretty much say that the reason he came back is because most of the players wanted him back. Of course, there was another coach and problems there as well, but Queiroz has the undivided respect and attention of every single player in that national team squad, and so they know how he plays, they know how hard he works, and they know how hard he wants them to work, and they will listen to and try to execute that game plan to a letter. I mean, if you remember the game, I think it was in 2014 in Brazil, when Iran played Argentina in the group stages, and Lionel Messi obviously won the game in the dying seconds. But if you look at that game, that's probably the kind of game I'm expecting Iran to play against England. Low blocks, defend deep, pack the midfield, not concede any space, maybe on the wings, and then whenever England's crosses come in, try to work, to defend by heading those away and winning the aerial challenges against Harry Kane and whoever it is. So that's the game plan. It's going to be difficult because England have so much talent, so many talented players on the wings. I mean, from Bukayo Saka to Foden. I mean, Grealish. I mean, there's so much talent in this England side, and that they can individually unlock a team. And then of course Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. So yeah, it's going to be quite a difficult thing for Iran, and I hope they don't burn all their energy, because this is not the game Iran need to get a result against. The games they need to get a result against are the United States and Wales, teams they can beat in order to go through.
Okay, I'll come back to one more question on a player. Alex, it seems that Nima has said most of the good things about England. What can you add, and what do you reckon? Do you agree with his well, his assumption that England are going to maybe have a bit too much for Iran tomorrow?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad that Nima filled in as much as he did, because my answer will be much more superficial. But yeah, I do agree. I think England will win, but I'm not sure by how much. I think potentially they won't score as many as people are hoping. I think because it's the first match, they could have another start, and also they don't tend to fare too well with high expectations. So I think potentially it could be 1-0, but maybe if they score early, then they could get the confidence to score more. But yes, I agree.
Alex, who do you think from this English team, because we Nima mentioned the players that they didn't bring, who do you think could be a standout star? Because the last World Cup, it was Harry Kane was unbelievably good. Who do you think could be the standout star from an English point of view?
It is a good question. I think I've heard a lot about Bellingham being said, but maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Sorry, we just had a key, and thank you. Is 1-0 to Callum Robinson scored a goal for Ireland against Malta, so we're beating the mighty Maltese. One of the best matches, just talking about Iran and England, one of the best matches I've ever witnessed was a Maltese draw with Turkey. A Maltese draw with Turkey. And it was very emotional, very historical, because it came sort of on the anniversary of the Great Siege of Malta. So it meant a lot to the Maltese, and literally it was the Great Siege of Malta, of course, was absolutely brutal and horrific for the Maltese people, especially. This was horrific to watch, but it was brilliant. It was just basically, as Nima said, lots of low blocks and bodies on the line. Nima, Alex says 1-0 to England. Would that be good if you get out of it without any injuries?
Oh, no injuries and just a 1-0 defeat would not be, of course, you don't want to lose any games, but just a 1-0 defeat, no injuries, no suspensions, no red cards. That's a good result for sure. I mean, it's not a great result, but it's a decent result. It's one Iran can work with going into the game against the United States and Wales, where they need to get a result. Obviously, I mean, I would have loved to have played England last, and having played these other two games and then kind of just maybe controlled that. But now you're in a little bit of a difficult situation. You don't want to necessarily lose, but it's important that you don't lose by too many goals, so that you got to work that back in other games, and you end up starting those games and chasing the game from the get-go. I do agree with Alex that it's important for Iran have to survive the first opening 15 minutes, because I think England are going to come flying out the blocks. I think England are looking to kill the game off early. And I think it's important for Iran to maintain pressure, to show that they are mentally ready, that they are mentally strong, that they are organized, that they know what they're doing, and that they are fighting for one another. Team unity. I think that's what everyone is looking at. No, especially given what is happening in Iran. And everything that's being reported around that, and so many people want to, and unfortunately so many Iranians seem to want to create and kind of fire up that there is some sort of problem within the national team, where, to be honest with you, I've not seen anything of the sort. You, in any national team, in any group of people, you're always going to have people who disagree politically.
Hello, 3 Irish people here. 3 Irish people here saying hello. We know when our captain walked out of a World Cup finals.
We actually have a film showing on national TV again this week about it, about Saipan. It shows every year. It's great. We love reliving the disaster.
At that time, I was in Saudi Arabia, and the internet wasn't. It was 2002, so it was kind of strange breaking rumors, and we were getting the information first because we were a couple of hours ahead of Ireland, obviously in Jeddah, and it was like Roy Keane's left, because we were thinking we have a chance to win this bloody thing. We can win it. We were thinking, And I'd been in Iran
for the documentary. Our greatest chance to ever get to a World Cup final.
Then it was. I was in Iran for the playoff, and Ireland were. I was the lone Ireland fan around 30,000 Iranians at my end of the stadium. I'm thinking, but it was great. But I do remember just the absolute. We felt pitiful the fact that Roy Keane wasn't there, and even within our Irish community in Jeddah, we were completely divided. completely divided. I had an Arsenal fan friend who was, Roy Keane's the greatest, Mick McCarthy's a loser, and I had a Man United fan friend who hated Roy Keane. So sorry, Issa, go on.
I feel the need to say that Irish people are always for or against and everything, in case anyone needs a lesson in Irish history.
Yeah.
So we've always been either we're with the UK, we're not, or we're with one political party, we're not. We're with Roy Keane, or you're the other sort. And we're like that about everything. We also had, like, when we're talking about how ridiculous we are as a nation, Alan, I went to a 30-year anniversary event held in Vicar Street to celebrate a goal scored by Ireland against England in a tournament that we didn't even get out of the group stage. Ray Houghton's goal. They had an event
God.
in Vicar Street.
This
We had
is
an event just to celebrate a goal against England. We have a song about it too. A full song.
See YouTube.
YouTube. But listen, it was the greatest goal of all time. The shortest man on the pitch headed the ball over the English keeper. Okay, beating an English keeper with a looping ball is not.
This
no
is
great
how we
chase.
apologise to Alex and say we'll all be cheering for Iran tomorrow.
No. By the way, Alex, what do you think? Because we asked Andrew this last time. What do you think when England are playing and everybody's supporting not England?
I think it's more fun when everyone's supporting someone
Yes.
else.
Oh,
It
God.
makes a good atmosphere. It'd be quite boring otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Tomorrow,
That's what sport is. It's people against each other. Yes, it
Yeah.
unifies fans, but you want competition, don't you? By the way, I have to say, when you mentioned Saipan, Roy Keane was 100% right. He was 100% right in that issue. So I don't care what anybody else says; they're wrong. He was right, 100 million %.
and at that note, Andrew will be leaving us for this evening.
I'm doing a Graham Souness. I'm sticking my flag in the middle of the pitch on this one. Keno was right.
I'm going to. We're running out of time on this, so we've nailed our flag. Definitely to the mast, saying that it will be an England win tomorrow. Cian, England or Iran or a draw?
I'm going to have to sit in the fence a draw.
Okay, don't fall off that fence. Isolt.
I think an England win, low scoring, and I think that'll be much more detrimental to England than it will be to Iran.
Good one. Andrew Flint.
0-0. I honestly have no hope of England actually winning this one because you've got to remember Iran have got some deadly strikers. Taremi and Sardar Azmoun is fit as well, plus a strong midfield. With if Eza Talahi is still fit and playing, I think he's a beast in midfield.
Yeah,
I think Iran really could frustrate England. Nima makes the point, quick out of the blocks. England quite often aren't. And if I reckon they'll get frustrated, 0-0.
I think there's a player I wanted to ask you about, Nima. Guduz Sayad, is that
From
right?
Salman Ghoddos, yeah.
Yeah, and he's Swedish born. I know he played for Sweden before. I've seen him play in Brentford. I think he's played in England, isn't he?
Yeah, he plays in the Premier League, yeah.
Would I mean, people would know him because they might they see him in the Premier League and so on. But I'd always say, look to Sardar Azmoun because I think he's a magician. I think he's been very misguided sometimes, but I think he's an absolute magician. Do you think that maybe he could be the person to pull off a shot tomorrow, that he could actually put the ball in the back of the English net?
Well, he could. I mean, he's a striker. He's a fox in the box. He's the kind of player that you can ignore. He's invisible and watchable for 89 minutes, and then all of a sudden he scores twice in 1 minute because he got two chances. I mean, half chances even. But for me, the most important player is Mehdi Taremi because the develop. I mean, if we're talking attackers, I'm with Andrew on Izzatollah. He's my favorite player in Iran's midfield as well. I think he's an absolutely brilliant midfielder. He can the fact that he wins. He's good at he's a good ball winner, but he's also a creative player. But Taremi is going to be key because the development that Taremi has had these past few years under Sergio Conceição at Porto has been, I've never seen anything like it. I can't remember an Iranian player ever consistently playing at this high level as he has been doing ever in history. Ali Karimi, Ali Dai, they scored, they played for Bayern Munich, but they had more peripheral roles. Ali Dai scored lots of goals for the national team. But no, for me, Taremi is the best player Iran has ever had. He really has everything, and he has the tactical intelligence. He will sacrifice himself and play on the left wing if he needs to do in a 4-3-3. He will play as an inverted winger. He'll play as a number 10. He'll play as a false 9. He'll play as a full 9. He'll do whatever the coach asks of him, and he has done at Porto, and he's become this kind of complete striker. So he's going to be key for Iran.
Okay. I just want to ask again, run around the houses. Starting off with Cian. Cian, who you still backing to win the World Cup?
I'm going to have to stick with Brazil.
Okay, Isolt?
Brazil, England not to get past the quarterfinals.
All right, Andrew Flint.
Well, Brazil to win it, but Qatar no longer my dark horses, I'm afraid.
There you go. Yeah, I think they were taken out and shot, and they're off in a knacker's yard right now, getting made to the
They glue.
Yeah. Nima, who are your tips for the top?
Look, it's I think it's in the year 2 AD after Diego. I think it's time for Argentina to win. That they will win it, and I think Napoli will win the Serie A as well. I think this is the season when Diego's divine touch from the other side of the grave will lead his beloved Napoli and Argentina to glory.
So the hand of God will reach down and touch
the hand of God, exactly, the actual hand of God this time.
with two English people. That's not good. Alex, who do you tip to win the World Cup this year?
I'm gonna back England, I think.
Oh. All right.
I think someone has to.
Yes.
I want to agree with you. I really honestly do, but I'm English.
I'm trying to convince myself as well, but we'll see.
Back your country. There's never a problem with supporting
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Okay. So on that, we were going to have something more, but I'm going to actually have a very, very short little quiz for you guys. Okay. You've got to just tell me what happens next. Okay. What happens next? That's all. What happens next? 2 little videos. Here we go. What happens next? What happens next, Alex?
I've got no idea.
That's about as much idea as most of us have, so don't worry.
This happens weekly. Don't worry, Alex.
I'll try again for you.
I don't know.
Okay, you're okay with that, Nima.
Isn't that the South Africa World Cup where Rob Green fumbles the goal into the isn't that what happens next?
Andrew Flint?
I'd rather not say, but I think Nima might be right.
Are you still talking?
I'm fairly convinced Nima knows exactly what he's talking about, unlike the rest of us.
I think we should have started there.
Yeah. No, Alex, you said he scores a goal. Cian, what do you reckon?
Nima has it bang on.
Yeah, that is it. That is, of course, because you can know by the vuvuzelas, which I was in Malta following that and work with a club and work with.
They've made their way to Irish games. Like, I've heard vuvuzelas at hurling matches, and I've nearly taken a hurl to the people with the vuvuzelas.
What? At a hurling match?
It is the most.
Did you give him a good slap, I hope?
But hold on. Is this where are these hurling matches?
Thurles.
In Ireland.
No, I know in Ireland, but no, I mean geographically within Ireland. Where are they?
Thurles.
I have actually seen them. He's right, in Thurles. Semple Stadium. They should never be in Tipperary. We are not cultural in Tipperary. We are backward. We do not have anything of any cultural significance, including a vuvuzela.
If that's culture, then God help the world. Jesus.
It is in Tipperary.
I thought you were going to say Cork. Isn't that the answer usually when there's something ridiculous in Ireland?
Unfortunately, in Iran, they've really adopted the vuvuzela.
That's the thing.
And I always get headaches when I watch Iran play because of that. And it's just, I mean, it's not, it's the frequency of the sound. It drives me mad. It's like having like a platoon of bees next to my ear. And I just want to. I feel like I want to do like this automatically. Like go away. I want to grab a piece of newspaper and start smacking things. Like it's so annoying.
The frequency affects certain people more than others because there are people who can listen to that and have a vuvuzela. Whereas to me, it sounds like someone is scratching at the inside of my brain.
Yeah, me too. It drives me mad. The frequency. Yeah, I'm with you.
Those people are called drunk. just that. Alex, what's your position on vuvuzelas? Are you for or against?
I don't know. I think it's just a classic sound at this stage. I don't mind it. I don't know. I'm fine.
Like, Keane, would you be upset if they were there in Thomond Park or something, if all the lads from, My Ross came out with vuvuzelas?
Yeah, I'd be in Israel's camp. It would be inserted somewhere where a hospital would be needed.
Right. I'll play out this. The Neiman's dead right, of course. Alex got it right, saying that it was a goal scored. This is what happened.
Dempsey, one of the stars of the Confederations Cup. Testing Green again. Oh, what an error. What an awful moment for Rob Green and for England. Presented Clint Dempsey with an American equaliser. Oh, that will take some getting over. Robert Green, a fatal slip. And suddenly the USA are on terms.
Incredible. Because in all the games that he's played, he's just looked solid. He's just looked solid.
Now, I will say that I saw that today in Gaelic football training when 4 guys stood over a ball and let it roll into a net because they didn't know who was meant to take charge. So that's okay. The next one, this is another one, and this is a bit of introspection from the Irish side. So I guess Keane, myself, and Isel will not take part in this, and this is for our Iranian and our 2 English. So here we go. What happens next?
Were clear favourites to progress at the expense of Ireland, despite the surprise victory by Jack Charlton's side in their opening game against Italy. The Dutch began superbly. Mark Overmars crossed for Dennis Bergkamp to claim his second goal of the finals. There was almost a telepathy between the 2 players.
Okay, what happens next? Andrew, start with you.
Well, what happens next is Dennis Bergkamp moves to Arsenal and becomes a hated figure of mine. Oh, Jesus. Absolutely no clue whatsoever, because to be honest, he scored a goal. So he's got to be something about his celebration, what happens afterwards. But they don't seem to be running in a particular direction towards catastrophe. So I can't work this one out, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Something falls on Bergkamp's head, I hope.
No.
A paper airplane flies into his head.
No.
He's afraid of flying.
Alex, what happens next?
Does someone run onto the pitch? Maybe.
Yeah, probably not a Dutch player ran onto the pitch. Nima.
I know. I mean, this is the round of 16 game. It's USA 94.
Group game.
Yeah.
This is not
fair.
fair.
It's your round of 16. Sorry, I should pronounce it right. Round of 16. Yeah. My apologies. Yeah, I should know that.
And Patty Bonner makes an absolute howler for the 2-0 goal from Wim Jonk, Dutch midfielder who plays for Inter.
Can you please? I want you on every week to just stop Alan thinking he's found something that no one knows. This is
absolutely fantastic. I reckon he sent him the answers before the show.
No, I remember that because I remember it's USA 94. It's it's one of the most the World Cup. That's one of the USA Italia 19, USA 94. I think every moment of those World Cups is like ingrained in my mind. I love those World Cups. So
they're good World Cups. We like those too.
Well, of course, Ireland were amazing. I mean, beating Italy in Boston with a Ray Houghton goal again, and of course the Italia 90. You made it all the way to the quarters, didn't you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And again, it was a Patty Bonner howler.
Patty Bonner, yeah, exactly. Patty Bonner.
So we'll play this one now. So we all, of course, starts with the goal, and then what happens next.
They were clear favourites to progress at the expense of Ireland, despite the surprise victory by Jack Charlton's side in their opening game against Italy. The Dutch began superbly. Mark Overmars crossed for Dennis Bergkamp to claim his second goal of the finals. There was almost a telepathy between the 2 players. At the end of the first half, Wim Jonk scored his second goal of the tournament. But what a nightmare moment it was for Irish keeper Paddy Bonner. Making his 77th appearance for the Emerald Isle, Bonner made perhaps the biggest blunder of his long career, catching and spilling a routine shot.
And yeah, so Ireland
Did they
went
call
out.
him Paddy Bonner?
Yeah,
I'm just
it
going to
was
say, you did.
Paddy Bonner. Paddy Bonner. There you go. Okay, and on that note, that was what we took offence to as Irish people. They called him the wrong name. Not that he let a ball into the net. Not that what keeper holds his hands like that?
It's an
Irish
absolute
keeper.
It's like I explained this before when I went to a training course, an explanation course on how to find out match fixing. And one of them was when the keeper was diving lengthways for a ball, that instead of doing this with his hands, he would turn his hands like this. But I don't know, Pat Bonner. Anyway, they just broke my heart. Anyway, on that note, we'll go out and we'll be updating through the World Cup as well. We'll be back on as well. Of course, next week is slightly earlier time because as the matches are pushing us around. So I will say, Andrew Flint, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Lovely to be as always, guys.
Isolde, thank you kindly yet again.
Ihawa?
Nima, thank you so much for being with us this evening. Absolutely legendary. Thank you.
always a pleasure. Anytime.
And Cian, thank you as well from all the way down in the kingdom.
No bother at all.
Alex, thank you for putting up with this madness this evening. I hope it didn't put you off
Thanks
too
for
much.
having me.
Okay. All right, so I'll go. The guys are going to wait on for me for a moment, and I'll go say, listen, thank you very much for your time this evening, everybody. We're going to play out with, not with our theme, we're going to go with the guitar music for the moment and just enjoy it. So remember, tomorrow morning kickoff, our guys are saying that if they're kind of split, they're saying it'll be either a draw or a narrow England win, but let's see what's going to happen tomorrow morning. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.